So, I want to know, how has your grief impacted your body on a physical level? And are you doing anything to move that energy through? Hi, my name is Addie, and my husband passed away in November of 2022. I have been using this platform amongst a few others to try to bring casual conversation to the topic of grief. Also, I am here because clearly community is really important, and I am sharing my own story in efforts to help other grievers feel a little less alone. Before all of this grief talk, you may know me as a sensual movement educator and instructor. I have been teaching somatic movement, sensual yoga, and pole dance for the last 13 years. A lot of what I've learned as a movement educator is that we store energy within our body. And whether that's up for debate or not, the truth of the matter is, when you don't feel good, it genuinely can take a toll on your physical body. Studies have already proven that grief in and of itself can release stress hormones such as cortisol, and that weighs very heavily within the body in general. A lot of times the result of that is tension within the body. And for everyone that's different, and I encourage you to ask yourself, where do I feel my grief physically? Now, studies show that grief physically rests in our chest, in our heart, and it actually physically affects the lungs, believe it or not. And the weird thing is, when you're grieving, the last thing that a lot of people tend to feel like doing is getting up to exercise, right? Because grief can make us really tired, and we can get into a position where we can feel like we really don't want to do a whole lot of anything, again, let alone getting up to exercise. I've noticed for me personally, as a movement instructor, while movement is such a beautiful way to really get into the body and move those emotions through, even I have had my own struggles with coming into maintaining a regular practice of being in my body and moving the emotional things that go on with me out through the body. That was a tongue twister. But all of that to say, our physical bodies can really take a beat down when it comes to dealing with the emotional side of grief. I definitely believe in the idea that anything that we do to heal ourselves is not just one fold, and it takes a multitude of things to heal the whole individual. This is mind, body, and spirit. I think that when we think about grief work and the healing that we do around it, one of the number one things that people think that is necessary is therapy. And usually this results in talk therapy, going to see your therapist, and talking your way through different emotions. Next to that, we have other practices like journaling. But I think one of the components that people tend to forget or don't give very much a credit to is the actual physical part of grief and how it can take an actual physical thing to move that out. I noticed recently that I had been feeling really stiff, really tight within my shoulders, and just feeling like a lot of the weight and the tension of the emotions that I'm carrying on my physical person. And so just in all of that, realizing like how important movement actually is, very specifically for myself, just the fact that I have not been moving as much as normal, and how I can actually feel like the consequence of that in my body. So I am mostly just venting, but I also want to just encourage you, if you are grieving and if you are really starting to feel the toll of that within your body, the stiffness, the tightness, even if you're feeling tired in the body or sluggish in the body, a lot of this is emotions that are holding stagnant. So I encourage you to take a moment to stop and pause, Find out if you can feel very physically where that grief is resting in your body. Is it in your throat? Is it in your neck? Is it holding in your chest? Is it feeling tight within your shoulders? Is it in your gut? Is it in your hips? And I encourage you to stretch. Just stretch it out. If you're not going to stretch, walk. I think that walking and stretching are two of the most simple ways that we can get the body moving, and getting the body moving and getting energy flowing, and then allowing it to sort of give you a sense of release. And if you're wanting to feel feminine and tap into a more sensual style of movement, I invite you to go and move with me on my YouTube channel, Sensual Movement Lab.